I recently came across this video and was of course intrigued by the title. Knowing the lore quite well, I know it's impossible to summarize the entire lore of the Lord of the Rings, especially in 12 minutes. Anyway, this is a response video to mainly what Asmongold says in the video. I know he's a pretty big YouTuber, though I've only watched a handful of his videos. Still, he seems like a nice and genuine guy, and a true fan of Tolkien. And certainly one that seems to hate the Rings of Power almost as much as I do. We are not all experts in Tolkien's lore, so I want to make it clear this is not a video to mock Asmongold or lecture him in any way. Instead, I see it as a way to talk about the real lore behind some of the aspects presented here. So it's mainly a service to you guys who also asked me to do a video about this. Some of what he says is really good, and I really appreciate him diving into deeper lore, instead of the basic lore repeated over and over again, especially now with all the AI content flooding social media. Let's go through what Asmongold says in chronological order, and then I'll pause whenever I have something to comment on. So just to give you some context, they are discussing tropes in films, and one of them is when a character is brought back from the dead. I do agree it happens way too often, and that bringing back Gandalf is not a bad thing, unlike what George R. Martin said in the past. Quite the hypocrite, if you ask me.
Actually, what happened is so Gandalf fought the guy for 7 days, the Balrog.
Okay, so I don't want to be too pedantic, but it's not entirely correct. It was 7 days. It was actually 10, from the 15th of January to the 25th. But to be fair, it was not something I could remember from the top of my head, so I had to look it up. And I don't think it makes much of a difference. What's interesting though, is that Gandalf wasn't brought back to life instantly, as we might think by simply watching the films. He was actually first brought back to life the 15th of February, so a whole month after the fight began. I guess it's good he died atop the peak of Sir Sigil. So he,
He died, and there's only 2 instances of Eru Ilúvatar, who's the god of Lord of the Rings, interfering with the world of Middle-earth or Arda. And the 2 times are, number 1, making Gollum trip to fall into Mount Doom, and number 2 was bringing Gandalf back as Gandalf the White. And so he brought him back. Gandalf the White was brought back literally by God.
Alright, so first of all, yes, Eru Ilúvatar is God, and he did indeed send back Gandalf to complete his mission in aiding the free peoples of Middle-earth in the war against Sauron. That is true, and it is also true that Gollum falls thanks to him. However, it's not the only 2 times Eru interfere with the world. Far from it, some could even argue. Most of this is found in the Silmarillion, and it includes creating the Ainur. He forgave Aule for creating the dwarves and gave them life. Likewise, he allowed the Ents to become beings at the behest of Yavanna. Then both elves and men are also created by Ilúvatar and are called his children. Beren also crossed the girdle of Melian and came into Doriath thanks to Eru. Quite a world-changing event, I'd even say. I think the most famous example though is regarding the fall of Númenor. How Eru came forth and changed the world from flat to a sphere, and creating a great chasm between Númenor and the Undying Lands. This is also what kills Ar-Pharazôn and his warriors in Aman, as hills crushed them and trapped them in the caves of the Forgotten until the last battle and the Day of Doom. This is what separates the land of the Valar from Middle-earth, and thus quite an important event in history of Arda. But even after that, he interferes with the world in his own mysterious ways. Most famously, how Bilbo came across the One Ring in Gollum's cave. As Gandalf says to Frodo in The Lord of the Rings, behind that, there was something else at work, beyond any design of the Ringmaker. I can put it no plainer than by saying that Bilbo was meant to find the ring, and not by its maker. In which case, you also were meant to have it, and that may be an encouraging thought. This is actually something Tom Shippey covers quite well in his book The Road to Middle-earth, in case you want to learn more. It's about divine providence, which often lies behind the things we cannot see. Interestingly enough, I can guarantee you have done it too, perhaps even today. We call it luck, fortune, chance, or a coincidence. But what is behind all the things we categorize as luck? It is often a very complex string of events, actions, and decisions. To put it simply, Nothing happens that God is not involved with, one way or another. People still have free will, but his guiding hand still shapes more than what we might think. So God interferes quite more than what most realize, perhaps even in our own world. That's an encouraging thought, at least.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Do they explain that in the movies, or is that book only?
They do, but it's implied. So that, like, so basically, okay. All right. Okay.
Here we go.
So basically, the Balrog and Gandalf are actually the same thing.
How does that work?
So there's a thing. So like all of the spirits. Okay.
Yep. Here we go.
Did you see Rings of Power?
Nope. Fuck no.
Okay.
Absolutely
all right.
not.
So Jesus Christ. All right.
Yeah, it's true that both Gandalf and the Balrogs are both Maya, though the Balrogs are technically Umaya, as they have been corrupted, but it's fine to say both are Maya. A Maya is an angelic spirit sent to help the Valar shape the world. Now, the Balrogs are fire spirits, like Arien, that guides the sun. The difference is that Arien wasn't corrupted by Melkor, like the Balrogs. So they are technically fallen angels, much like the devil in the Bible. It's the same thing with Sauron, that is also a Maya. So yes, they are all Maya, but quite different still. But let's continue.
So this is the way it works, right? So in the beginning, Eru Ilúvatar sings a song and he creates, all life and everything like that with something called Flame Imperishable. It's a big thing.
Okay, so he is referring to the music of the Ainur. And as the name implies, it's actually the Ainur that creates the music. It includes singing, but it's more than mere song. A bit like classical music and opera perhaps, but more beautiful than you can even imagine. So it's designed by Eru, but the actual music is made by the Ainur, which includes Melkor in case you didn't know. And yes, the Flame Imperishable is indeed a big thing, also called the Secret Fire, as Gandalf calls it during the fight with the Balrog. All Fëa is created through the Secret Fire, and Fëa is basically the soul of beings, even Sauron and Melkor. So to put it simply, it's the secret behind creating life, which is also why Melkor was eager to learn how to wield this power. But let's continue.
And so he has, there's like two different tiers of like angels, right? There's the Valar and the Maiar, right? The Valar are like Manwë, Morgoth. Like Manwë is the Valar that Gandalf serves as his Maiar form, Olorin. And then obviously Morgoth, or Melkor at the time, descends into evil, like going against Eru Ilúvatar, and he becomes Morgoth. That's the name the elves gave him. And so then basically, Morgoth brings a lot of those Maiar spirits to Middle-earth, and those spirits corrupted by the evil turn into Balrogs.
So there's a few mispronunciations here, but that's totally fine with me. I'm not sure Tolkien would have been as forgiving, but as a non-native speaker, I know how hard it can be speaking a different language. So a common mistake by many fans is switching between singular and plural forms. Valar is singular, and Valar is plural. Same with Maya and Maya. Now, if you are referring to a female Valar, the correct form is actually Valje, and Valja in plural form. It is true that Gandalf, or Olorin, as he was called in his youth, serves Manwë, the king of the Valar. But he also serves Vata, the queen of the Valar, and also Nienna and Irmo. Especially Nienna and Vata are actually quite important, which might come as a surprise to people, as some claim female characters have barely any role in Tolkien's works. I don't agree with that. Let me remind you that Melkor feared Vata most of all, and that it was also Vata that aided Frodo and Sam in the fight against Shelob. Nienna is also crucial if you want to understand Gandalf fully. You see, she was the Lady of Mercy, but also pity and courage. All aspects deeply rooted in the character of Gandalf, and it's said he listened long to her, and that those that listened learned wisdom and endurance in grief. To me, it is what makes Gandalf so different from the other wizards, especially Saruman.
Then Eru Ilúvatar and has the different Valars send over their own spirits, kind of like their own lieutenants, to serve in Middle-earth as like kind of agents to help men overcome the evil of Sauron.
Yeah, all this is quite correct, though told in a simplified way, but totally fine. I want to correct one thing though. The Istari were not sent simply to aid men, but to the free peoples in general, which includes many other races than men.
who Sauron also is a Maiar spirit, even though he's extremely powerful. He's like maybe maybe one tier above Gandalf, maybe barely one above Gandalf the White, probably 2 tiers above Gandalf the Gray.
Okay.
Like this is just like arbitrary power scaling.
Well, for
but
sure,
yeah, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so then,
Yeah, as she says, arbitrary power scaling. So it's fine to explain it simply to people that don't know the deep complexity of the entire lore. I would probably do something similar and also mention that the Witch King isn't as powerful in the books as in the films, where he actually destroys the staff of Gandalf the White. It's not a change I like, to be honest.
So Gandalf, whenever he fights the spirit, that's why he says like servant of Morgoth whenever he's fighting the Balrog.
Gandalf doesn't actually say the Balrog is a servant of Morgoth. Instead, it's Legolas that says in Lothlorien that it was a Balrog of Morgoth. But yeah, totally fine, especially when you have to memorize everything.
And so basically he gets sent
I always
back.
assumed he was just saying shit.
No. So he's like part of the Astari order, right?
Yeah.
And so you have like obviously the 3, the 3 wizards in like the movies.
Okay, so this is actually more of a comment to what the other guy says. I'm afraid I don't know his name, but I think he highlights a common mistake a lot of people have, even hardcore fans. When we talk about magic in Middle-earth, it's actually a bit more complex than you might think. Galadriel even hints to this in the books. And I would even say it covers stuff you haven't even considered. And this ties perfectly to the music of the Ainur we've already discussed. You see, power and magic often comes from words or song. We see it countless times throughout the entire Legendarium. The world is created in song. Finrod and Sauron fight through song. Lúthien uses song against Morgoth, the poem or riddle on the map of Thror. Tom Bombadil uses songs. The password to open the doors of Durin is a word. Gandalf used words to fight the Balrog. Saruman using his voice to control people. It's a prophecy of words that defeats the Witch King. And if you ever break your word, or rather your oath, then you become much like the Oathbreakers. It's one of the worst things you can do. So it's words and song that is woven into it all. So it's not simply words. It is power and magic. I think it says a lot about Tolkien and in turn our world. Words are magical and can be used for good or evil. Just think how powerful the sentence, "I love you," is. Or how mean words can leave a scar deep within you that you remember even long after they are said. I also think music and song is some of the most beautiful thing you can experience, perhaps less so in its modern forms. But who wouldn't be moved by the choir in a cathedral or the scores of Howard Shore as the fellowship breaks? That is power and the true magic of the world.
You have, I think it's Anator and Orlando. I think they were given different names by Tolkien later on in the story. Those are the 2 blue wizards who were in Middle-earth actually longer than the other ones were.
So in regards to the blue wizards, we actually know quite little. And I think Asmongold also touches on this. There are several versions of their story. Early on they fail, as Tolkien mentions in one of his letters. And later they are actually a vital part in the downfall of Sauron, both in the Second and Third Age. There's even a third story, but they have other names as well, as we can read in the Nature of Middle-earth.
But basically, they're all actually angels. They are literal angels that predate the existence of the entire world.
Yeah, this is true. They were all created before the beginning of time even.
Damn.
And so they're not, and like they're bound by a like pact to not use their magical powers in capacities that are unequal, right? That's why, for example, like Gandalf used magic against the Balrog, but he never did that against anybody else.
Is that true? I swear to God, he used magic somewhere else, surely.
Not really, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Trying to think.
Like he would use magic to like light an area.
Sure, yeah.
But like he's not using it. Like Gandalf basically, like to any other being in like Middle-earth, Gandalf could like just kill it. Basically, right? Minus like a handful.
What about those wraiths?
Those wraiths? So Gandalf 1v9'd them.
I'm not sure what sources he bases this statement on, but I'm not familiar with it. As we have just discussed, magic often comes down to words, and he actually does that, even to Frodo. If he hadn't told Frodo about Bilbo's pity for Gollum, it's quite plausible Gollum wouldn't have been spared, though we can't tell for certain, of course. But the fact is that Gandalf's words were true in the end, as Frodo even says right after the ring is destroyed. But do you remember Gandalf's words? Even Gollum may have something yet to do, but for him, Sam. I could not have destroyed the ring. The quest would have been in vain, even at the bitter end. So let us forgive him, for the quest is achieved, and now all is over. I am glad you are here with me, here at the end of all things, Sam. I think these words spoken by Gandalf had a far bigger impact on Frodo than most realize. Later he wants to spare Saruman. Even after he tries to kill him, Frodo has in many ways become a very Christ-like character, all thanks to Gandalf's wisdom and words. But Gandalf did also use light and fire at other times. We never really get the showdown between him and the Witch King, but Gandalf would certainly have used what he could against him, even though the Witch King is far below Gandalf in power. He even fights the Nazgul with light on Weathertop, just a few days before Frodo and the others get there. I guess this is also what Asmongold is referring to here.
They're called Nazguls, right?
They're called Nazgul, and they were the original 9 kings that were given the rings by Sauron.
Those things scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, so it's a common misconception that the 9 men given rings of power were kings. They were not. Perhaps a few of them. However, we know some of them became kings thanks to their powerful rings. This misconception mainly comes from Aragorn's words in the films, as far as I know. It's sadly repeated over and over again, and one of the biggest misconceptions alive, along with the other one, which claims that each ring were made for different races. They were not. They were all made by elves, and then later taken by Sauron and given to these races. As Sauron tried to control and dominate them, he succeeded with men, but failed with the dwarves, and the 3 elven rings he never touched. Those were forged by Celebrimbor and him alone.
The Hobbit comes out. I told my mom and dad, I'm like, let's go watch it in theaters again for Christmas. And they're like, okay, fine. I look over at my mom in the middle of a battle scene on The Hobbit, and she's like this.
Yeah, that's a fair point. The Hobbit trilogy isn't that good, and in terms of the story, it's quite weak, with a lot of setups without payoffs. I think the worst one is the Arkenstone. If you watch the theatrical version, the last time we see it, it's actually Bard putting it in his jacket, and then we never see it again. The stone they set up in the prologue of the first film, and apparently the most important jewel of the entire trilogy. It's just one example. There are far more, even in the extended cut, by the way. Anyway, let's keep watching.
In the river, like they were fighting in the river
That's
or something?
the first movie when they're in the barrels.
Yeah, it's the second film, but it doesn't matter. Minor detail.
In The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, what is the worst part in the whole series?
I think that it was stupid that they had the dwarf have a love interest with the elf, Tamriel, in The Hobbit. I thought that was stupid.
I agree. The love triangle between Tamriel, Legolas, and Keely was unnecessary and very poorly executed, in my opinion. I'm not sure if it's the worst, but it's definitely in the top 3 of the worst. I also really dislike the whole Lembas business added in The Return of the King. But I think lore-wise, the worst change was how suddenly Arwen's fate is tied to the ring. I got no idea how that works, and it's never explained in the films. But let me know in the comments if you want a full video where I dive into the worst changes Peter Jackson made to the films.
It also
The worst part?
Well, Rings of Power would be the worst part.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
we ignore that.
Yeah, sure.
That just goes without saying.
Amen. The Rings of Power is the worst. It certainly deserved my final score of 0.5 out of 10. And I have a feeling Season 2 will be equally bad, if not worse. I am tempted to say it's impossible to make it worse, but Amazon seems to take that as a challenge.
The Desolation of Smaug fight was such a letdown.
Yeah.
And it built up that, it built up to that, built up to that. Not only did the fight of
Is
Desolation
that in
of
the
Smaug...
second one?
The second one, yeah.
Yeah.
Desolation of Smaug, the fight didn't even happen. It didn't even finish in the second movie. You had to watch the third movie to see the end of the Desolation of Smaug fight. It was such a letdown. It was just one dude shooting one arrow into like an exposed scale. Bro, that shit was so fucking lame. Because Smaug was so cool. When you see him in the Mountain of Treasure, bro, that shit was dope.
Yeah, I agree. It was a mistake to push the death of Smaug to the third film. There are also a lot of changes made to the story overall. I would say it's even less dramatic in the book though, where Bard is aided by the Thrush. But yeah, the build-up was quite a downer for the films.
Wait, I never read the Hobbit, so was the dwarf and elf love thing not in the books?
No, it was not. It's fake.
Oh, that's annoying.
Fake fan fiction.
Yeah, perfect wording here. Fake.
It's not real.
Why would they add that?
To make it for modern audiences.
True. Very true. It's also why so many changes have been made to the Lord of the Rings of Power. Luckily, people hate it though. So that's a good thing at least.
Like, I would have wanted to see certain scenes in Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, but like, other than that, it
Like
would,
what?
well, so I think that Gandalf actually like basically 1v1s or at least like intimidates the Witch King of Agmar at the gates of breaking into Minas Tirith. And I think that would have been fucking awesome to see that, right? Because like nobody really knew like how powerful Gandalf was or anything like that. And so that would be really cool to see.
Oh, he actually mentions this. Yeah, I totally agree. We did get that odd take in the extended edition, so a more faithful take on that would have been nice. I agree.
It was cool.
That happened.
It was cool now that I think, because the way that you're bringing it up, it is cool because I always thought Gandalf was like the strongest, but he didn't really do anything.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
Ever.
He didn't need to.
Yeah, I don't agree with this. I guess it's true in a way. He did march an army to the gates of Barad-dûr and take out Sauron in single combat, which might be what they mean. I don't think it would have been cool to see though, but I guess young people would have enjoyed that.
Yeah,
he's just
well,
the
like
man.
he also even had a, so this is again, deep lore, is that one of the rings that was given to Gandalf by the elves is actually a ring that's supposed to make everybody else around them inspired. And so like basically, and that they even covered that in the books. And so that's kind of like his job. He's trying to like inspire the races of Middle Earth to be able to resist Sauron's influence on their own. And like
That's
this
so
is again,
sick.
Yeah, very true. Kirin gave him the Elven Ring Naya when he first arrived in Middle-earth around 1000 in the Third Age. Naya was the Ring of Fire, something Gandalf was already associated with, along with light, so it fits in that regard. It had powers to inspire others to resist tyranny, and like the other Elven Rings, it could hide the wielder from remote observation, except by the wielder of the One Ring. And lastly, it also gave resistance to weariness of time. I'm quite impressed he can actually remember all that from memory. He's definitely a big fan of the lore. There can be no doubt about that.
Yeah. Well, it's also like just like a big metaphor, I think, in a lot of cases to, like Christianity, right? And Catholicism.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well known that Tolkien's Catholic background is part of the story. I think the most powerful example is how mercy is what ultimately defeats evil in the end. Gollum was shown mercy many times, and all that led to him standing with the ring at the end, where Eru interfered and made him fall.
What
It's
other
huge.
series do you like as much as Lord of the Rings?
As much?
Yeah, nothing?
No, nothing.
God,
But,
it's
there are
so
things
good.
that are below that, but I really like a lot. Like I know a lot of the lore for a lot of the different like worlds and stuff like that. Same with like history and stuff.
And there we have it. I too love The Lord of the Rings more than any other story. Perhaps not a surprise to any here. Anyway, that was some really good takes on the lore, despite a few hiccups. Still very lore accurate overall, and I'm sure you could learn a lot listening to Asmongold whenever he discussed Tolkien lore. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Thanks to all the patrons and YouTube members. And thanks to all of you for being part of the Council of the Rings. Farewell till next time.